Have you ever felt an unexplainable pull toward someone, as though a part of you recognized them long before your mind could make sense of it? Maybe you met them only moments ago, yet something inside whispered, "I know this person." It wasn't based on logic. It wasn't because of their appearance or the words they spoke. It was something much deeper, something impossible to explain. What if that feeling wasn't just your imagination? What if it wasn't coincidence at all? Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists who ever lived, believed there are forces within the human mind that connect us in ways modern science still struggles to explain. He believed that some people enter our lives not by accident, but because they awaken something hidden deep inside us. They become mirrors, teachers, catalysts, and sometimes the very reason our lives begin to change. This isn't a story about fairy tale, romance, or the idea that somewhere out there is one perfect person waiting to complete you. It's something far more profound. It's about discovering why certain people shake your soul, why some encounters change you forever, and why the people who matter most often arrive exactly when you're ready to become someone new. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear could completely transform the way you think about love, relationships, and even yourself. But before we continue, do me a favor. If you're enjoying these deep conversations about love, relationships, and personal growth, please subscribe to the Love and Relationship Lab. Turn on the notification bell and help us grow this community. Every subscription helps us reach more people who are searching for healthier, stronger, and more meaningful relationships. Thank you so much for your support. Now, let's begin. Imagine a woman named Mackenzie. She's successful in her career, surrounded by good friends, and by all appearances has a happy life. Yet deep inside, she feels as though something is missing. She can't explain it. She's dated wonderful people, but every relationship has eventually left her feeling disconnected. One rainy afternoon, Mackenzie stops at a grocery store after work. She notices a man across. His name is Stuart. Nothing dramatic happens. They simply glance at each other. But something changes. Neither of them understands why. When Stuart smiles politely, Mackenzie feels an unexpected calm, as though she's meeting someone strangely familiar. Later, they begin talking. The conversation flows effortlessly. Hours pass like minutes. As they leave the grocery, both of them feel something neither can explain. It isn't overwhelming passion. It isn't infatuation. It's recognition. Almost as if two strangers had somehow continued a conversation they started years ago. Carl Jung believed moments like these deserve our attention. Not because they're proof of destiny, but because they often reveal something important happening inside the unconscious mind. Jung introduced the world to an extraordinary idea known as the collective unconscious. Unlike our personal memories, the collective unconscious belongs to all humanity. It's a deep psychological reservoir containing universal symbols, patterns, instincts, and experiences shared across generations. Think of it as an ancient library hidden within every human being. Inside this library live powerful archetypes: the lover, the hero, the wise elder, the mother, the child, the wanderer. These archetypes quietly influence how we think, love, dream, and connect with others. When someone enters our life carrying an energy that matches one of these deep, archetypal patterns, something extraordinary happens. Our unconscious recognizes them long before our conscious mind understands why. That's why some people feel instantly familiar. You can't explain it logically. Your heart simply knows. But Jung warned us not to mistake this recognition for a guarantee of lifelong romance. The feeling itself is significant. The outcome is not predetermined. Many people believe soulmates exist to complete us. Jung disagreed. He believed no one can complete another person because every individual must become whole within themselves. Instead, soulmate-like connections reveal the parts of ourselves that have been waiting to awaken. In Jung's words, the purpose of life isn't finding another half. It's becoming whole. This process is what he called individuation. Individuation means becoming the fullest, truest version of yourself. It requires courage because it asks you to stop pretending, stop hiding, and stop living according to other people's expectations. Ironically, certain people accelerate this process simply by entering your life. Their presence shines light on qualities you never knew existed. Perhaps they awaken your confidence. Perhaps they expose your fears. Perhaps they inspire you to pursue dreams you've buried for years. Whatever the case, they become part of your transformation. Jung also introduced another fascinating concept: the anima and the animus. He believed every man carries an unconscious feminine side called the anima. Every woman carries an unconscious masculine side called the animus. These are not about gender stereotypes. They are psychological energies. The anima represents qualities like intuition, compassion, creativity, and emotional depth. The animus symbolizes courage, reason, determination, and inner strength. Whether we are aware of it or not, we spend our lives trying to integrate these hidden aspects into our personality. When we meet someone who naturally reflects those qualities, we often feel intensely drawn toward them. Not because they're perfect, but because they remind us of the parts of ourselves we still need to develop. That's why certain relationships feel transformational. They don't simply make us happy. They make us grow. Across history, cultures have described this mysterious experience in different ways. The ancient Greeks told the story of souls separated into two halves, searching for reunion. Eastern philosophy speaks of yin and yang, opposite forces creating harmony through balance rather than sameness. Mystics throughout history have described encounters that felt guided by something beyond ordinary understanding. Jung didn't dismiss these stories. Instead, he gave them psychological language. He suggested that beneath mythology lies profound truth about the human mind. Perhaps what we call destiny is really the unconscious, recognizing an opportunity for growth. Perhaps the people who change our lives most aren't sent to rescue us. Perhaps they're sent to reveal us. Think about your own life for a moment. Has there ever been someone you couldn't easily forget? Someone you only knew briefly, yet who permanently changed how you saw yourself? Someone whose words stayed with you long after they were gone? Maybe that person wasn't meant to stay forever. Maybe their purpose wasn't permanence. Maybe their purpose was awakening. Because sometimes the people who transform us aren't the ones who remain beside us. They're the ones who remind us who we were always capable of becoming. And that leads us to one of Jung's most fascinating ideas. If these extraordinary meetings aren't random, if certain people arrive precisely when we're ready to evolve, then how exactly does that happen? Could there actually be invisible patterns guiding these encounters? Part 2. Synchronicity. When the universe seems to bring two souls together. Have you ever thought about someone you hadn't seen in years, only for them to call you later that same day? Or perhaps you've kept seeing the same name, the same number, or the same place over and over again, until eventually it led you to someone who changed your life. Most people dismiss these moments as coincidence. Carl Jung did not. He believed that some coincidences carry meaning far beyond probability. He gave them a name: synchronicity. To Jung, synchronicity wasn't magic, fortune-telling, or superstition. It was the mysterious alignment between our inner psychological world and the events unfolding around us. Imagine your inner life and the outer world moving like two perfectly synchronized clocks. When they align at just the right moment, something remarkable happens. Life suddenly feels as though it's speaking directly to you. Let's return to Mackenzie and Stuart. A week after meeting in the grocery store, they unexpectedly run into each other again at a local art exhibition. Neither of them knew the other would be there. They laugh about the coincidence. A few days later, Stuart mentions his favorite childhood novel. Mackenzie smiles in disbelief. It was the very same book she had been reading the night before. Weeks later, while driving separately across town, they both stop at the same quiet viewpoint overlooking the city without making any plans. Again and again, their paths seem to cross. Neither is trying to force it. Neither is chasing the other. Life simply keeps bringing them together. Many people would say, that's fate. Jung would say, pay attention, because synchronicity isn't about predicting the future. It's about recognizing meaning. According to Jung, meaningful coincidences often appear during periods of profound personal transformation. When you're becoming a different version of yourself, the unconscious begins communicating through symbols, encounters, dreams, and unexpected events. It's almost as though your inner world starts leaving clues in your outer world. But here's something important. Jung never suggested that every coincidence carries cosmic significance. Sometimes, a coincidence is simply a coincidence. The real question isn't, did this happen? The better question is, why did this moment affect me so deeply? Meaning comes from the psychological impact, not merely the event itself. Perhaps you've experienced something similar. Maybe someone unexpectedly entered your life just after you decided to change careers. Perhaps you met your closest friend during one of the darkest seasons of your life. Or maybe the person who eventually became your partner appeared only after you'd finally learned to love yourself. Timing matters. Jung believed our unconscious often prepares us for encounters long before we're consciously aware of it. Sometimes the meeting feels less like finding someone new and more like remembering something ancient. But synchronicity doesn't only appear in waking life. Dreams play an equally important role. Jung devoted decades to studying dreams because he believed they were one of the clearest windows into the unconscious. Dreams don't usually speak in plain language. They communicate through symbols: a bridge, a forest, a child, a journey, a stranger. Each image carries psychological meaning. Imagine that for several nights, Mackenzie dreams about walking through a forest, searching for a light in the distance. She never reaches it. The dream ends every time. Then one afternoon, Stuart invites her on a hiking trip. As they walk through the woods, they suddenly arrive at a clearing almost identical to the place she had dreamed about. The sunlight breaks through the trees, exactly as it had in her dream. She freezes, not because she's frightened, but because something inside her feels deeply familiar. Jung believed experiences like these deserve reflection rather than immediate explanation. The unconscious often speaks symbolically before the conscious mind understands what's unfolding. That's why paying attention to recurring dreams, recurring themes, or recurring emotions can become incredibly valuable. They're invitations to explore yourself more deeply. Now here's where many people misunderstand Jung. The moment they hear about synchronicity, they begin searching for signs everywhere. Every repeated number becomes destiny. Every chance meeting becomes proof of the one. Every emotional connection becomes a soulmate. Jung would caution us against this. He warned about something called projection. Projection happens when we unconsciously place our own hopes, fears, fantasies, or unmet needs onto another person. Instead of seeing who they truly are, we see who we desperately want them to be. This can be dangerous. Someone might feel incredibly familiar simply because they remind us of a parent we wanted approval from, or they may resemble an old relationship we never fully healed from. Sometimes we're not recognizing another person's soul. We're recognizing our own unfinished story. That's why discernment is essential. True soul connections don't depend only on excitement. They invite growth. They encourage honesty. They inspire responsibility. They don't ask you to abandon yourself. They help you discover yourself. As Mackenzie and Stuart spend more time together, they notice something unusual. Neither feels the need to pretend. Their conversations become increasingly honest. They talk about childhood fears, past failures, dreams they never shared with anyone else. Neither is trying to impress the other. Instead, they feel strangely safe telling the truth. Jung believed authenticity is one of the strongest signs of meaningful connection. When you're with someone who resonates with your deeper self, wearing masks becomes exhausting. You naturally begin showing the parts you've hidden from the world. That doesn't mean everything becomes easy. In fact, the opposite often happens. Because once the masks begin to fall, the real work begins. The closer two people become, the more clearly they begin reflecting each other's hidden fears, insecurities, and unresolved wounds. The very qualities that first attracted them may soon become the source of tension. Why? Because every deep relationship eventually becomes a mirror, and mirrors don't just show us our beauty. They also reveal what we've tried not to see. That is why genuine soulmate connections often become transformational, rather than merely romantic. They don't simply fill your heart. They challenge your identity. And according to Carl Jung, that challenge is not a sign that something is wrong. It's often a sign that something important is finally beginning. Because sometimes the greatest gift another person can give you isn't unconditional comfort. It's the courage to meet the person you've been, avoiding your entire life yourself. And that brings us to the next stage of the journey. Part 3. The Shadow, True Soulmates, and the Journey Back to Yourself. Have you ever met someone who made you feel more alive than anyone else, yet also more vulnerable? Someone who brought out the very best in you, while somehow exposing your deepest fears at the same time? If you have, Carl Jung would tell you not to run from that feeling too quickly. He would invite you to understand it. One of Jung's most profound discoveries was the idea of the shadow. The shadow is every part of ourselves we've hidden away. It includes our fears, our jealousy, our anger, our insecurity, and our shame. But surprisingly, it also contains our untapped strengths, our creativity, our confidence, and the gifts we've been afraid to express. Most of us spend years pretending these parts don't exist. We wear masks to fit in. We hide our weaknesses. We suppress our emotions. Eventually, we begin believing the mask is who we really are. Then someone enters our life, and suddenly, the mask no longer fits. Let's return one final time to Mackenzie and Stuart. Months after meeting, they have grown very close. One evening, Stuart doesn't reply to Mackenzie's message for several hours. Immediately, her mind begins racing. Maybe he's losing interest. Perhaps I've said something wrong. What if he leaves like everyone else? When Stuart finally calls, he explains that he'd been helping his father after an unexpected emergency. Nothing more. The problem wasn't Stuart's silence. The problem was the fear his silence awakened. It reminded Mackenzie of an old wound she had carried. Since childhood, a fear of being abandoned. Stuart hadn't created that wound. He had simply revealed it. This is exactly what Jung meant when he said relationships become mirrors. The people closest to us often reflect back the parts of ourselves that still need healing. At first, this can feel uncomfortable, sometimes even painful. Many people mistake this discomfort as proof they are with the wrong person. Sometimes that's true, but not always. The important question isn't, did this person trigger me? The real question is, What inside me was triggered? And why? That question changes everything. Because healing begins the moment we stop blaming everyone else for our pain and start becoming curious about it. However, Jung also offered an important warning. Not every intense relationship is a soulmate connection. Not every emotional storm is meant to be endured. Some relationships are genuinely unhealthy. If someone repeatedly lies to you, manipulates you, disrespects your boundaries, makes you afraid, or slowly destroys your confidence, that is not spiritual growth. That is emotional harm. Love should challenge you to grow. It should never require you to lose yourself. A true soulmate encourages honesty. They respect your dignity. They celebrate your growth. Even during conflict, there remains respect. The goal is never control. The goal is transformation. That's an important difference. One relationship helps you become more yourself. The other slowly makes you forget who you are. Jung believed individuation, the journey toward becoming whole, requires courage. It means facing the parts of ourselves we've spent years avoiding. Sometimes a soulmate walks beside us through that journey. Sometimes they simply point us toward it before continuing on their own path. This may be one of the hardest truths to accept. Not every soulmate is meant to stay forever. Some arrive for a season. Some teach a lesson. Some awaken a gift. Some help us heal an old wound. Their purpose isn't measured by how long they remain. It's measured by how deeply they change us. Think about the people who have shaped your life. Perhaps one encouraged you to believe in yourself. Another taught you forgiveness. Another inspired you to dream bigger. Another showed you what healthy love truly looks like. Even if they're no longer part of your daily life, their influence continues. That is the mark of a meaningful connection. However, Jung also offered an important warning. Not every intense relationship is a soulmate connection. Not every emotional storm is meant to be endured. Some relationships are genuinely unhealthy. If someone repeatedly lies to you, manipulates you, disrespects your boundaries, makes you afraid, or slowly destroys your confidence, that is not spiritual growth. That is emotional harm. Love should challenge you to grow. It should never require you to lose yourself. A true soulmate encourages honesty. They respect your dignity. They celebrate your growth. Even during conflict, there remains respect. The goal is never control. The goal is transformation. That's an important difference. One relationship helps you become more yourself. The other slowly makes you forget who you are. Jung believed individuation, the journey toward becoming whole, requires courage. It means facing the parts of ourselves we've spent years avoiding. Sometimes a soulmate walks beside us through that journey. Sometimes they simply point us toward it before continuing on their own path. This may be one of the hardest truths to accept. Not every soulmate is meant to stay forever. Some arrive for a season. Some teach a lesson. Some awaken a gift. Some help us heal an old wound. Their purpose isn't measured by how long they remain. It's measured by how deeply they change us. Think about the people who have shaped your life. Perhaps one encouraged you to believe in yourself. Another taught you forgiveness. Another inspired you to dream bigger. Another showed you what healthy love truly looks like. Even if they're no longer part of your daily life, their influence continues. That is the mark of a meaningful connection. In the end, perhaps the greatest lesson Carl Jung ever gave us about soulmates is this: the person you're searching for isn't coming to complete you. They're coming to help you remember who you already are. The deepest love doesn't rescue you. It awakens you. It reminds you of your strength, your courage, your compassion, your purpose. And eventually, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing people. You stop begging for love. You stop trying to become someone else just to be accepted. Instead, you become authentic. And authenticity has a quiet power. It attracts relationships built on truth rather than performance. It allows love to grow naturally instead of being forced. Maybe that's why Jung believed the greatest relationship we'll ever have is the one we build with ourselves. Because when you truly know yourself, you recognize healthier love. You set stronger boundaries. You choose partners who support your growth instead of feeding your fears. You stop asking, "Who will complete me?" And you begin asking, "Who inspires me to become the best version of myself?" That single question changes everything. Perhaps your soulmate is already part of your story. Perhaps you've already met them. Or perhaps they're still on their way. Either way, your task remains the same. Keep growing. Keep healing. Keep becoming. Because the more authentic you become, the more likely you are to recognize authentic love when it finally appears. Thank you for watching the Love and Relationship Lab. If today's message encouraged you or gave you a new perspective on love and relationships, please do me a favor. Subscribe to the Love and Relationship Lab. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss our weekly relationship insights. And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Most importantly, share it with someone who might need this message today. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever experienced a connection that felt impossible to explain? Did someone enter your life and completely transform the way you saw yourself? Share your experience below. You never know. Your experience may be exactly what someone else needs to read. Until next time, remember this: the greatest journey isn't finding the right person. It's becoming the person capable of recognizing real love when it arrives. Thank you for being part of the Love and Relationship Lab. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the next video.